be doing some stuff in Piskel. But yeah, keep in mind, obviously you don't have to use Piskel for these, but I'll, kind of go over the basic ideas, and if you want to use something else, that's fine. So I'm just going to, let me share my whole screen. Share. Okay. Let me minimize this. And so I'm going to open up Piskel. And a bit bigger. And I'll start with the obstacle. So for this one, I'm just going to use the 32 by 32. So it's going to be relatively smaller than the main character. And so for this, you can think of an obstacle as a couple different things. Like it could be something that, let me open my, well, I guess I can just draw. Okay, so if this is our character, your obstacle could just be like a block that the character just has to like jump over or something like that. Or it could be something that actually hurts the player. So the player needs to avoid it if it's like some, spiky object, or it's falling out of the sky, if it's like a fireball or something like that. So this, when it interacts with the player, it'll, actually, hurt the player or kill the player. So those are a couple different types of obstacles. The one that I'm gonna do is for my game, I'm gonna make like a little spiky kind of like thorn thing. And one thing that I'm gonna do to make the obstacle art a little bit simpler is I'm gonna do multiple frames, but I'm gonna write a really simple script that lets me choose different frames. So I can kind of pack all of these different obstacles into one big sprite sheet. So I don't have to like have a bunch of different sprite sheets, but since I'm adding it as a sprite, I'll be able to add each frame individually. All right, so somebody hears something. Does somebody have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you describe as like um an object? So basically I have a frog and I want him to like be dodging bombs and eating flies. So
Okay.
what would the flies be described as?
So the flies would be more like a reward. Except
Okay.
can the flies hurt the frog, or
No, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have like them both kind of in the sky, but like the bombs would only hurt them.
okay.
And the flies are like points.
Yeah, so the flies are kind of like coins. And so they can
Yeah.
move around. But the frog will collect them like it's a coin.
Okay. So it's not necessarily considered like an enemy.
No, but there's like, the functionality is a little bit similar. Like you can use some of the enemy code to make the fly move around, but just make it so it doesn't like hurt the frog.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different. So it's good to be thinking about how your concept differs from what the way that my game is designed or the example game is designed. But you can kind of like repurpose some of that code to create that. All right, so I'm gonna draw. Oh yeah, I'm gonna draw like a couple different sort of like spiky plants, or like maybe like flowers or something. So they may look cool, but they'll hurt the player. So I'll start with like a green color and just kind of draw the base of a couple flowers. So maybe have a little flower base like this, and kind of make a little tail thing like this. I guess if it's a flower, if it's a plant, it shouldn't be green. It should be like brown, I guess. Maybe I'll make this part brown and make something else green. Although I want the spikes. Yeah, maybe I'll leave this green. It doesn't have to be super realistic. So I'll have like a little green plant base. And then for the flower, I'll do something like kind of pink. And I'll just draw a little flower over here. And it looks kind of bad. Let's undo that. Try that again. Draw some flower petals. Better. Fill that. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's add a little detail. I'll use the lighten tool and draw kind of like a middle in the flower. Okay, and then for my spikes, I want to, so for the obstacles, I want to make sure that like, even if it's not super realistic, I want to make it clear that the spikes are dangerous. So I'm going to make the spikes brown, but I'm going to make them like have some blood on them. I'm going to make a brown color, and I'll do like a, grab the pen tool, and I'll do like a kind of spike here, maybe one like here, one over here. And so I want the player to know that this is dangerous. And so I'm going to get something red and do this red down here. Put like a little blood on these spikes. Okay, so that'll stand out. I think that'll communicate what needs to be communicated. And then I've got a nice little palette of colors, so I can move on and make a couple more spiked flowers. So I'm just gonna do this real quick. I just wanna have a couple that I can use in my game. And when we add them in on Thursday, we'll add a little code to just pick one of the frames. So each instance of our obstacle can show a different frame. Okay, so let's have this one going over this. And again, you can do as many of these as you want, and they don't all have to be the same art either. Like you could have one be a flower and one be a tree, and you know, maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to put in the game. So let's add the flower art. Okay. And add in the little center. And then I'll add spikes. And then I'll add the little blood. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's do one more, and then we'll move on to the next part. I'm gonna get my green again. Maybe I'll make this one like coming out of the side. So I can put it on the side of one of my platforms. So I'll start with the base like over here. Make it go down like this. And let's move it over a little bit. So I'm gonna use the move tool and put it over here. And then draw the, whoops, switch back to the pen tool, flower. That in there. And now we need some spikes. I'm gonna move this up just a bit. Get the pen tool, put a spike here, spike here. Let's move it down. Put another spike, little one up there. And then let's add lights. Okay. So that's pretty good. So now I can just export this as a sprite sheet. And since I'm using it as sprites, oh, I forgot to save. So when I hit Command S, it's going to bring up my save. So let's call this obstacle flowers. And I'll save as. So I want to save my Piskel file in my art. So I'll make a folder for obstacles. And save it in there. And then I want to add a sprite sheet to my game. So I don't need a zip file for this. It's going to be sprites, so I can cut up the sprites in Godot. So I'm going to go to PNG, make sure the scale is at 1, and click download. And so now we're in the sprites folder, and you can see all the other sprites we've got. And let's just throw that in there. And so let's see if I go to my game, sprites, and there's my obstacles. So those are the little flowers. And so now we'll create an enemy. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to make a new Piskel. And so the enemy is going to be moving. So we need some animations for the enemy. I'm going to do very simple ones. I'm not going to go crazy with this, just as an example. And as I mentioned with a lot of the other stuff when it comes to game design, it's good to start simple. So you can make something quick, put it in the game, see how it looks. And then if you want to make it more complex or more detailed, you can always do that later. So I want to start simple. I'm going to save this as obstacle enemy. And so let's save that obstacles. But I need a few different animations for this. So if my enemy is standing still, I need like an idle animation. If my enemy is walking, I need like a walk animation. If the enemy is dying, like if I attack the enemy, I need a die animation. I need a hurt animation if the enemy has like multiple lives. And I need a attack animation if the enemy can actually attack the player. So there's a bunch of different things. You don't necessarily need all of them. It kind of depends on what you are doing with your specific game. So I'm going to do the idle animation to start, and I'll add a walk animation and an attack animation and a dying animation. So I'm going to do a little snake for my game. So I'm going to start here and just make kind of the default idle animation. And just like I did with my player and my NPCs, I'm just going to make something really simple, not too complicated. So I'll choose a green for the snake. I think that looks good. And I'm just going to kind of draw a little snake shape like that. And let's give him a little head, a little bit bigger, fill out shape a little bit. I'll just use the bucket to fill that in. And let's move them over a little bit. And that looks pretty good. This will kind of be my like starting point. So now that I have this, I'm gonna make his, so this is gonna be a little exaggerated. I'm gonna make his eyes and his tongue like bright red, just to kind of like exaggerate, like this is, this is a bad guy. So let's give him a couple eyes and like a little tongue. And actually, before I do that, let's duplicate it, the frame. And so my idle animation will just be like a few frames of different eye and tongue. Well, that kind of looks weird. Let's keep the same eyes, actually. So let's duplicate this frame. And I'll just make the tongue kind of animate. Hopefully it'll look a little bit sinister, kind of scare the player a little bit. And maybe I want to move the snake a little bit. So let's add another one. And let's just kind of, I'll keep his head the same. But what I'll do is just delete the bottom of his body and bring the head a little bit down. And so this will be a good kind of like, let's grab the green. Just for the idle animation, just to make him a little more alive, he'll just kind of like compress in this little frame here. Okay, this looks kind of goofy, but fix this a little. Slow this down. Okay, this is good enough. Just make it clear that he's ready to pounce. Okay, so let's save this as our kind of default. So I'm going to save obstacle and okay, and then I want to export this sprite sheet. So you could put all of the sprites into one big sprite sheet, but I'm going to put them into separate sprite sheets, kind of like my player. So this is kind of my idle. I'm going to export and just click download, and I have obstacle enemy. Let's put idle at the end of this so it's easier to find. And then I'm going to save a new version. So I'll change this to enemy walk and click save as obstacle enemy walk. Okay. And so let's get rid of these extra frames, and I'll make a new frame. And for this one, I'm just going to do a really, really simple animation. So I'm just going to, okay, I want just a regular frame, add new frame. Okay, so let's turn on the onion skin. And so I'm just going to kind of do 2 frames to make it look like the snake is kind of walking, but it's not going to be like super realistic. So I'm just going to move his head back a little bit back here, and then draw his body kind of going forward like that. It's going to look really goofy, but that's okay. And so I just want to keep it really simple. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the details yet. I just want to see how this is going to look in the game on Thursday. And then if I like it, I can add more detail to it later. Okay. Speed this up a little bit. Okay. I think that's good enough to communicate that he's moving. So let's give this guy some eyes. That looks a little weird. Let's put the tongue over here. Okay. Let's turn off the onion skin for a second. Yeah, I think that'll look good enough. You'll be able to tell that the snake is walking. So I'm going to save this and export, download. And so we have the obstacle enemy walk. Save that. And so let's move to the next one. So I'm going to change this to obstacle enemy dies and click save as. Save. Okay. So now for this one, I'll turn on the onion skin again. So I just want to squish the snake. So if this is like if the player jumps on the snake. So just to communicate again that the snake is dead. So let's move the head down here, kind of. And I just need a couple frames. I don't need a ton of frames for this. And then I can't see the body. So let's, oh, okay. Let's just add a blank frame. And so then I'll move the head down here. So he's kind of getting squished. And the last one, his head will be on the ground. So then I'll draw in the body. So his neck will kind of be going up like that. And then he's kind of squishing his body like this. And it's a little goofy, but it's good enough. Okay, now he's really squished. So he'll be kind of overlapping his own tail here. Fill this. And then in the last one, he's completely squished. So his tail will be going over here, and then his body will just be kind of lumped up over here. Okay. And last, I just need to add in the eyes. So I'll do like when he first gets hit. And then okay, pretty good. Let's slow it down a little bit. Okay, I think the second lung is off the onion. Okay, so then I can go ahead and delete the first frame because the snake is going to be either idle or walking, and we can just go straight into the dying frame. So I just have 3 frames. It's enough to communicate that we've kind of smushed the snake. You can have as many frames as you need here, though. It doesn't have to be just 3. So I'll save this, and I'll export. And then I just have one more, the attack animation. I'll save that. Now I'm going to open up the original one and save this as obstacle enemy attack. And so I'll get rid of these extra frames. And so for this one, just something kind of similar to the dying animation. So for the attacking animation, I'm going to move the snake's head back a bit. So he's getting ready to attack. And then move forward over here. And I could do, 2 or 3 frames here. It doesn't really matter. Just enough to show what's going on. Okay. And so then let's draw the body. So he's kind of coiling back here. So let's draw the body going up a little bit as he's getting ready. Okay. And then his head is kind of extending, and I'll put his kind of curl his body over here so it looks like he's making an effort. And then on the last one, kind of bring his body back up again. And then again, I don't need the first frame because it's going to transition into this. So I don't really need one frame that's just a duplicate. So let's add in the eyes first. And so let's put the eyes over here so he sees player. Now he's attacking. Eyes. Maybe I'll bring out some like big fangs. Kind of goofy, but that's okay. Oh. And if I delete the first frame, let's take a look at that. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's a little goofy, but it'll communicate what it needs to communicate. So I need to save this as, oh, I saved it as the wrong thing, but that's okay. I'm going to say obstacle enemy attack. Save as. Okay, and let me export Sprite Sheet. And I overwrote the original one by mistake, so I'm just going to undo all these and then resave it. There we go. So I'll save that as just the basic. Oops. Okay, cool. So I think that's everything I need for this lab. So we'll go over the last part, adding it into Godot on Thursday, along with adding our player physics. And let's see, so I've got the enemy, idle, walking, attacking, dying. Okay. And let's actually put this on OpenLab. I don't think I've done this recently, but let's demo this again. So once I'm done with all this stuff, I need to remember to post on the OpenLab. So I'm gonna go over to the OpenLab and create a new post. And I'll call this my obstacles and And so this is obstacles and enemies in the artist area. And so I'll just drag these guys in here. So I'll start with my obstacles. And they look pretty small in here, but that's okay. It's game art. So obstacles are flowers, spikes. And then I'll drag in my snake sprite sheets together. And let's not crop our images. Let's do column. And okay, my enemy is a snake. Okay. Let's preview this. Okay, looks good enough. I don't know why these are on the left and this one's at all. Maybe I can choose. Doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, we can change the alignment. Uh-oh, now it's, oh, uh-oh. Now it's gonna look weird. Yeah, that's not what I want. Okay. Okay, maybe this is better. It looks weird. Full width. Here, I guess I'm just gonna leave it like that. All right, yeah. So once I've got that, I'm just gonna publish and copy this link. So that's what I can, yeah, so that'll be my post. And it should also have a screenshot from Godot, but we can add that later on Thursday. All right, so that's everything for the obstacle and enemies lab. I'm gonna stop